Welcome to episode 133 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, bringing you what could be a quick but precise show for us as we're one man down. Not too much to talk about tonight. We're going to cover the Eagles recap where we have Dallas the week prior and Washington since we did not record prior to the Washington game. We got our picks, but first we are going to have to finally address the disaster of which we call the Philadelphia 76ers. So let's go around the horn. I got Jason Sayada with me.
Hey Tom, what's going on?
Jason, how are you? I got Jimmy the Chalk.
I may be the third person physically, but mentally, might be one and a half on this podcast.
That's not much of a change then from other shows. And we got no, we don't got Christopher Michael Meeker, but Jason does have I thought something.
Yeah, don't panic. Particularly one friend of mine I used to work with who is actually someone who never even met Meeker before, but decided, I guess, a little over 2 years ago to start fading his picks every week when he puts bets in. So, Joe, relax, calm down, never fear. I have Meeker's picks right here for you.
All right, and as always, this episode of 133 of Broad Street Hustle is sponsored by Giovanina's Pizza. You tried the rest, now try the best. All right, let's get into the disaster of the Sixers. So they're sitting at 2-9. What's the record now?
Going on.
2-9. So the record, I mean, it is what it is, but it's bigger than the record, right? I mean, you haven't had a game where the big three played together. You're not going to have a game where the big three play together for a little bit of time. Seems like every night there's a new controversy, whether Embiid's shoving reporters, not playing back to backs. You got George who sat. I mean, they sat like both of them. So I don't know if they're just taking some of these games as losses. So might as well sit both of them. But it's been nothing but a disaster. The rookie looks good. I mean, that's one positive. But other than that, not much else. Jason, take us where you want with the Sixers.
Yeah, I mean they're 2-9, like you said. At some point, like when does the season start getting away from them, right? I mean, obviously the big concern is Embiid. Like he played the other night against the Knicks and looked absolutely terrible. Now he also hasn't played a basketball game since whenever the goofy Olympics were, August, whenever that was. So he didn't play any in the preseason. So I guess he was rusty. He didn't look spry at all. The concern is did that fall by Kaminga on Embiid's knee do his knee in? I mean, I don't know. I mean, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he look somewhat okay during the Olympics? Like,
I mean, it does no longer seem like an injury to Embiid. It seems like it's a chronic knee issue that's going to
but
now be persistent as he gets older.
I hear you. But even so, like in the Olympics, he looked way more spry than he looked whatever night that was they played the Knicks.
I watched 0 minutes of Olympic basketball, so I can't use it as a point of reference.
He was himself. He was throwing himself all over the place. Like
No, but that was also closer to like say the season, the end of the season where he was
Yeah.
like still in basketball. It's almost the fact that he's not able to get right back into the and not physically. It's his knees, which is
what's I'm saying. Like that's fine. Like if he's rusty and that's what that was the other night.
no. I'm not saying rust. I'm saying it's like a long term knee issue that's gonna be.
I mean,
We've all look. We're all over 40. We've all like you get issues. I've had
I
surgery
hear
on my
you.
knee. Like I have arthritis on my knee. Like the guy's 7, 8 feet tall and he has knee problems. Like at
I mean,
some point it doesn't get like his 100% is no longer 100% anymore. It's now 80%, and as goes on and goes on. I mean, Jason, you've lived through right some players that had these. What was
I
that one guy
mean,
they traded for, and he
Jeff
had bad
Rule,
knee.
Jeff
Right.
Rule,
I
right?
mean, so it could be that.
It absolutely could be, and that's the scary part. So who knows? I actually have him on in the background here. He's on the bench right now, but I don't know how he started here. But
Actually, really
um,
well. I'm looking at I'm not watching the game, but at the stats. He's got 8 points in 5 minutes or whatever.
okay,
2 for 3 from the field. He's gotten the line 4 times.
okay.
But
So let's.
I think the bigger picture is though, like your point. So I don't think this season gets away. I mean, as long as Embiid still will play his games and George will play his games and Max, like the season's not going to get away from him in the fact that there's still going to be a play-in team at 7, right? Maybe to get to 6. Like they're going to make the playoffs. I would think, right? But then it becomes, can Embiid then play every other night, and be effective, and can that lead to a run? Because otherwise, what do we, what are we doing here?
Right. And before you come off of me, I have one more point I'll follow up with you on McCain, who, you know, he looks like he could be a gem, this guy. And, I saw him in the summer league and I don't think I saw him make a shot in the summer league. Like, I mean, I was like, I hear this guy could shoot, you know, but I mean, he looks really good. He kind of reminds you of what Maxi did a couple years ago when everybody was out that one game and he had 40 points, like out of the blue, and they almost won, or they might have even won the game. I forget who it was against,
I think it was
but my,
Denver. Was it against
it
Denver?
was a Denver game. They might have lost, but I think
They lost, but it was closer than anybody would have
yeah,
expected.
exactly. So my question to you guys is, can those two guys play together? Because Maxi's 6'2", and McCain's not that much bigger. Maybe he's 6'3". Now, offensively, they would be pretty unstoppable together. But then, are they long enough defensively?
I think that's it. I mean, can you think of a scenario in the league in the last, since the modernization of like how the game is today, a situation with like two guys of that size that played similar, speed and all that were successful?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd have to.
I'm trying to think. The Raptors teams didn't have big guards, right? Because Lowry's not big, and then
No, but like you had a Siakam who was long, like who might not have been like this giant guy.
yeah, you had
But like
you had your front court guys. Like,
he
they
played longer.
traded for Gasol and Siakam, and but DeRozan's not big. He didn't play long. And then Van Fleet not big.
I think the problem they would run into.
It's tough though.
Yeah, is they're not big on the front line either, right? Because you're playing either Caleb Martin or Kelly Oubre at the power forward spot. So I think that's the issue, is going to be rebounding. But they're going to score. They're going to be pretty dynamic scoring. And they looked okay when Embiid at 45% or whatever he was.
Well, you could see just defensively too, like the difference in how he clogs.
Yeah.
I mean, how he takes up the space in the middle.
Yeah.
Where they no longer have that free range to
I mean,
just
that was
drive.
a game for 3 quarters, and then it just got away from him in the fourth quarter. But I talked enough. You could,
Chalky, thoughts on the Sixers?
So the only game I've really had a chance to watch was the Knicks game, and I was in the midst of traveling, but I caught the first 3.5 quarters, and then as the Wi-Fi disconnects and I finally pick it up, I disconnected right when they reviewed the foul with Towns, and then I picked it back up, and it's like, wow, it's a 16-1 run on the Knicks, and I was like, all right,
the whole game around.
That's it. That's all of this. So, I mean, I will say for that game, the fact that Embiid looked so bad on the offensive end, except when he could get to the line, and they were with him, and the Knicks weren't playing outstanding either. Brunson was like 0 for 10 from 3 by the last time I saw, or something like that. But the defense, Embiid looked pretty good on defense. I thought he fit in well. He wasn't really. When I watched him on defense, it wasn't like, wow, this could be a problem. Offense, he couldn't get by anybody. He just wasn't able to create much. So that's where, again, it's one game. It's the first game. If that's going to be a constant thing, then yeah, I got a huge concern, because that's going to be a problem. Now, he didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, he typically, no matter what Tommy was saying, doesn't start seasons great. Like he'll get on the streaks where he's putting 30, 40 points a game, but he usually doesn't start the first 5 games of the year like that. So I think he's got to play himself into whatever it is, to get going there. And I think there's going to be there again. You can only practice so much and try to gel with new players. So him and George aren't going to have a lot of chemistry right away either. And so that's going to be. And that's really the thing. Not just you're missing a guy. You're not having your big 3 on the court at the same time. They didn't play a preseason game together.
Did you see the play where they tried to do like somebody? I guess George tried to set a screen for him, and they bumped into each other. Did you see that? Did you see that play?
I don't remember. If it was before the fourth quarter, I saw it. But I don't remember it.
I think it was.
Okay.
And the ball went the other way. It was.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
I mean, there's going to be stuff out of sync. It's just.
I just think you almost have to answer like these non-basketball questions more than you like. Maxey, George, and Embiid, I feel if they play, they're going to be good, right? We said it before the season, but it's these questions of like, are they going to have time to like? Is George is a guy that gets hurt, Embiid we know, so like they're not going to have all these games together. So say they're even able to come together, and we referenced Nick Nurse was able to do that with Toronto, where I think the starters never played together for more than a couple games before that the championship run. So they could theoretically get it together, but like do you think his health is going to be good enough to sustain a championship run? Do you think George's health is going to be good enough to sustain? Like it's these questions that we really are hard. You're guessing, but it's every year too. Like now we have a player in a B that has been hurt in every playoff series we've had since we've had him, and some were freak injuries, the eye injury, this and that. So, but now you have like a chronic, what seems to be a chronic injury, along with these other things. Like I just, it's hard for me to say it's going to happen when it's not happened in whatever it's been 8-9 years now, and it's only going to get worse as these guys get older, and you got even another player who doesn't play that much. So
I mean, they're sticking to the plan with sitting guys. Like they said, they sat him. I didn't get to see the Cleveland game, but they were with Cleveland the whole game down their top 3 guys, right? And they lost by a handful.
Well, that's the
of
other
points.
thing, because we reference like, at least with George, like Embiid don't play, you have George, and I know Maxey's out, but you have a guy where Maxey and George play, you could still win games without Embiid because But now it's like, why did George not play that game? I mean.
I think they threw the towel, and they were like, "We're not. Cleveland's hot. We're not beating them on a back-to-back. Let's sit George."
Right.
Chalky's right. I think that was just a game where we're not winning, so why play him?
Yeah.
Maybe if Maxey played, they would have played him.
It's a problem. I mean, it just continues to harbor like that losing franchise that they've been stuck
I'll tell you what. I looked at the spread tonight, and I didn't like that they were underdogs with Embiid playing and without Banchero playing for Orlando. They were getting 2.5 points tonight.
It's where in
interesting.
Orlando?
I thought I saw that they had started as favorites, but I didn't.
Who started as favorites?
I thought, and yesterday I want to say I looked. I thought I saw that the Sixers were like -1.5 or something.
When I looked at 6 o'clock tonight, they were +2.5.
I did not look that close to the game, so it definitely could have been. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't think that some of like the one game Embiid did play, he looked bad, and they can't.
I guess, but like Orlando's without their best player.
Yeah. So no, like I mean, we can hope, but do I have confidence that this will work to where guys are healthy for a playoff run? No, because they never tried this strategy before, and Embiid has been relatively healthy coming into the playoffs, but then he finds a way to get hurt in the playoffs. So you got to hope, but I'm going to have trouble believing or expecting it to happen until you actually see it happen, because he's almost 10 years in the league now, and it's like. Just to go back to McCain a second, because you mentioned it, Tom. Like, I mean, he's been better than expected for sure. He started tonight, but with the guard play, especially Maxey being out, magnifies it. But Lowry's got 7 minutes already in the first quarter. He can't be playing 28 minutes a night if that's how the average is. Gordon finally got back in, but Gordon and Jackson are unplayable right now. They're not getting on the court. And then the star of the summer league was Ricky Council. He a do not play most nights now. So you're down your top guys, and then you have none. I wanted to. I wouldn't know Jeff Downton if I crossed him on the street, but the way I kept hearing him the other night and turned the ball over, couldn't do anything against the Knicks, and I wanted to throw my iPad through the window. Like it was.
He
so, you got good minutes from better than expected from McCain. Even though I had hopes that Yabusele could be a sneaky good signing, I think he's exceeded my expectations so far. But Martin's been up and down. Gordon's giving you nothing. Some of these other guys, and then Drummond had like a good first game, but then he's not been all that great.
He's just playing too, no?
Drummond's not even rebounding anymore. Drummond looks like he could...
Yeah, but you don't think he's just out of his element, like starting these games? Like he needs to be more just coming off the bench. Like,
I mean, maybe. But you have him here to start those games and Embiid not play. Now, of course, Embiid missed the first however many games this season. Maybe he's not looking to. But I mean, to what your expectations should be. How many seasons has Embiid missed 5 or 6 games straight at any point? Almost every season. So you're bringing him in. I was shocked that they didn't really play the rookie until Wednesday night. Bona was getting no time. I mean, throw him out there. You're losing these games. Give him some minutes and let him try to do something. So I mean, Nurse is still trying to get, I guess, a feel for what his rotations are going to look like early on. But there are guys playing that probably shouldn't. There's guys aren't getting time. It's like you can't do worse.
I also think some of the, like these, like Embiid not playing games and not always for health reasons and George not playing games and like these other players are probably like, what the hell? We're getting pushed out here every night and we got to play, and it's got to rub them the wrong, it just doesn't create the atmosphere that you want to create to play winning basketball. I think. I mean, it has to.
I could see that being an issue with a veteran like Drummond. Like the young kids, it's like, look, give me minutes, give me a chance to play, give me some time. But if you're Drummond, I don't know.
Drummond had to know when he came here what his role was going to be, right? And it was going to be exactly. Embiid is going to miss 35 games a year, right? You're going to start in those games, and in the games Embiid plays, you're going to play 20 minutes.
I know but it just harbors that like he can go out there and not give it his all, like not like he's playing the game.
If he's a pig, and it's just like
I don't think
like
lose anyway, not so much Embiid's not playing. It's like you start the year with no Embiid, no George, and then Maxey on top of that.
The organization has no sense of urgency to beat, like to even like to win games, to play. I don't know. I think it creates a culture that these guys, like, it's a team game. I mean, you need to play. Like, they could play individually, and like Chalky said, like, a McCain could go out there. He's a young guy. Give me the ball. He's going to score, but that doesn't mean he's, like, gelling within the team to win basketball games.
Yeah, anybody
going out there and playing.
NBA, anybody could score 20 points a game if they take 30 shots, right? I mean, that's why you have these Tobias Harrises who average 20 points a game on teams that win 20 games a year, right? Because he's going to take 25 shots. I mean,
Ish Smith was a process legend because he had like a string of good games when like nobody else could score. I mean,
right. You got guys who are good players on bad teams, right? So
it's just starting to look like an end of like this whole process. And we know it ended years and all that we've said, but just like it's all coming back on him, and it's just, I don't know. It doesn't, and then Morey's like, you don't see him. He has no communication to the outside world. They're sticking Nurse out there to like out to dry, trying to answer some of these questions that I don't even think he has the answers to. And it's just it just looks like a big disaster.
Yeah, I don't know. Something was weird. Something was weird where it seemed like Embiid came in and started saying my knee hurts or something like that, right? When they didn't expect that.
Like they weren't expecting it.
I don't think they were expecting it because, like, they asked Nurse at one of the press conferences, and he was like, he literally said, "I don't know what to tell you guys." Right? So what does that tell you? Like, he's almost, he's not going to throw Embiid under the bus.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, the NBA investigation found that he was legitimately hurt, but that the Sixers were just lying about it. So it's not like, I mean, if they would have said, Well, Embiid said my knee was sore, and we just didn't ask him any questions. So they did something to find out. Yeah, it's the case, but
Yeah, but what is legitimately hurting Embiid? I mean, you could probably take an X-ray or MRI of Embiid's knee at any point,
I
and it's
don't.
going to
Yeah,
show
I mean, I don't know, but
inflammation.
they're like
You know,
they're
he's
they're
got bad knees
they're
at
trying
this
to
point.
protect these national games, so there has to be some sort of standard. Other than I just don't feel good that they're going to fine a team $250,000, which again is not that much in the long, but it's going to get progressively larger if it keeps up.
Yeah, well, one solace that Philadelphia fans could take is they beat the Sixers owner in a football game last night, and
And
in Washington.
Al Michaels was taking shots at the Sixers
Yeah,
last night.
so I mean that's a good segue to move on to the Eagles and recap it. I mean we won't get into the Dallas game, like that was long enough ago. Cooper Rush was beyond
I mean,
bad.
I don't think they're going to win another game this year.
Oh
I
my
really don't.
God, he can't throw a football. It was like the ball came out wet. It was like quacking.
He
It was
literally,
unbelievable.
like the Eagles, literally didn't have to defend more than 8 yards down the field
It was I
because he,
mean
he wasn't capable of throwing a 10-yard pass.
No.
yeah, it was
I
crazy.
mean, I don't think McCarthy cares because he's going to get fired. But like, you might as well play Lance at this point.
Oh, wow.
He looked. I mean, I know they put him in that, but I don't think he can play at all. If Shanahan couldn't get him to play, he can't play.
He can't play.
But yeah, so last night Eagles did win 28-20. What was the final?
26-18.
They won by 8 points.
What was it?
26-18 or something, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
26-18.
26-18.
Yeah. Washington had that last score and the 2-point conversion to put it within 8. I mean, I think we'll let you guys get into the specifics around the Birds, but I think that Dan Quinn's decision to not kick a field goal was one of the worst coaching decisions I've ever seen in football. Completely cost them the game. I mean, you score, even if you get that first down, you still got to go 25 yards for a
Yeah,
touchdown.
you're not necessarily not kicking a field goal anyway.
Yeah.
Even if you get the touchdown, you're giving the Eagles the ball back with a chance to win the game. Like you're not putting the game away. So you kick a field goal there, the Eagles score a touchdown, you get the ball back, still with a chance to win the game. You don't get it. The Eagles score a touchdown. It's a 2-score game and it's over. And that's what happened. And that was the game. Give the Eagles credit for driving down the field, but that was egregious. Like if that was Sirianni, I mean, it would have been a lynching because, it obviously we know the history of Sirianni. So I think that to me that was the biggest takeaway outside of the game itself, the Eagles game. Jason, I'll let you go and take over for the recap for the Eagles.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, the Eagles did outgain them by a lot. It was like 434 to 264. But I still think that the final score is misleading because of two sequences that flipped the game. And Tommy hit on the first one, which was, and I'll start even before that. They had second and inches on that. They had second and inches, and then they lost yards on third down or second down, third down, and then that goofy on like total incompetent decision not to kick the field goal on fourth down to take the lead with 7 minutes or 8 minutes left in the game, whatever was left in the game. So that's number one. And then number two, if Calcaterra don't come up with the fumble, they might not win that game because Washington gets the ball with 7 minutes left. If they drive and kick the field goal, now the Eagles got to come down and get points or they lose the game.
The one argument I have for you, and it's valid in a sense, but it's also not valid because it is the team that they have. And I can use your words and flip it that game, the score was misleading, but only because Hurt stings. Because the Eagles
I didn't get
dominated the game. They dominated the game, and they should have far been ahead of them
I
at
didn't get to
the
that
end of
yet.
the half and the third quarter.
Yeah.
But Hurt keeps teams in games because he stinks so bad. But go ahead.
I'm getting to that, but I'll get to that. Give me a second. The defense was good. They were very good. You know, Carter was
The
dominant.
defense keeps them in games. That's the bottom
Defense
line.
was very good. Now Daniels was awful. Now was it because the Eagles were very good defensively, or because he was just awful last night? Probably a combination of both. Carter was dominant. Like Carter took over the game on the line.
Played every snap too, which was
He was
was
totally dominant, which you know he's got the potential to be.
Baldinger tweeted. He said he's never seen a D tackle usually play like 100% of snaps. So he's like, was this a punishment for something, or but he's that? But he was good. He played. He played through the whole
because
play.
He was
their
pass rush and he was tackling run stopper.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And then I had Hurts coming up next. I'm gonna push him down because I'm sure we'll lead into chalky with Hurts, but Elliott is becoming a problem, and that's a problem for them because he's like a top 3 player on the team, right? I mean, he's in in this run that they've had, he's been so important to this team. You know, you get to the 35-yard line, you know you're getting points with him, right? Not anymore. And his kicks were like the way he was kicking it, they were like hooking left, you know? Or fading.
I said he was a problem a few weeks back.
If he's a problem, they're in big trouble. But the biggest problem,
that's gives Sirianni more excuse to not use him, but yeah.
But the biggest problem is your quarterback is not good. He is not a good quarterback. We've said it for I don't know how long now. He is not good. And I hear people today thinking the Eagles are a Super Bowl contender, and they are not. Not with that quarterback. They are not. They are not. Moore has to call a game where he basically has to like dummy down his playbook, right? Because you have an incompetent quarterback who can't make throws. So now when you run into a good defense, which they eventually will at some point, you know, they've gone on a run now of playing bad teams. Or bad defenses. Washington's not necessarily a bad team. Their defense isn't that good, and it looked pretty good last night for 3 quarters. It's going to be an issue because he is not a good quarterback.
He keeps these teams in games where the Eagles the defenses are dominating to where if their offense can just be average, they put up 17. The scores are 17-3 at half, 21-3 at half.
Not only is he not accurate, he's totally not accurate. Right?
There was guys wide open.
When his first read is not there, he gets his happy feet and it's all over. Like he starts he gets his happy feet and he's looking to run. If you wait, if you maneuver in the pocket, somebody eventually gets open, which they showed that a couple times last night. But he's already starting to take off.
There was people open prior to him even leaving, like doing his happy feet, and he still wasn't seeing them. It's bad. I mean, and he makes a couple good plays. Most of the time it's with his feet, but he had that 1 third down. He had 2 third down runs, I think, or 1 third.
Yeah, of course he's going to run. He's going to be able to do that,
and he makes the play. But what happened is the defense is the reason why they were in the game, and then he finally makes a play in the 4th quarter, and then Barkley makes his play in the 4th quarter, and then it looks like wow, like look what the Eagles are doing. They're just burying teams. But that time where the defense is letting up a few points more than they would in the first half, like they did against Tampa, say their offense is Hurts is not able to keep them in the game early on. Chalky.
Yeah, well, I mean that was one of the main concerns throughout the game last night. Watching is like, okay, well, it's another slow start for the offense, and you know, against Washington, it didn't hurt them. You know, who they got coming up? L.A., Baltimore. Yeah, L.A. didn't have a great game against Miami, but Lamar Jackson, like him or not, is favorite for MVP right now. You can't put up 6 points through 3 quarters against Baltimore and win the game probably, even as good as the defense is playing. So, you know, after a couple, 2 or 3 good performances, first half against Dallas for Hurts was a little shaky. I'm not making excuses, but that sun was he played the worst when that sun was in his eyes, so maybe that's a little bit of it. Last night really didn't have an excuse. I mean, they checked him for concussion near the end of the first half. I thought maybe he got something earlier because, you know, the throw to Brown where Brown was wide open and he threw it into the seats, and then the play down by the goal line where he couldn't see the guys getting open and then ended up
if you watch that reverse that reverse they ran, he got hit. He hit his head really hard on that reverse.
On that reverse, yeah. I mean,
And
that
then
was
that was the drive that he threw
that was a
weird to
big
Brown.
call,
When
yeah.
Brown was open.
So, and I mean, if Elliott hits those 2 field goals in the extra point, maybe the game's not as close as it seems for a while. But I mean, the 2 drives where Elliott missed the field goal, if you remember, either through penalties or bad plays, it was 2nd and 20, 2nd and 30. I think it might have been and then they're just like, oh, well, we're gonna. By the time we get to 3rd down, it's still really long. They're like, we'll concede the touchdown. We'll get a few yards and let Elliott kick. And if Elliott's not going to make those kicks, to what Jason was saying, that's a huge problem because now if you don't want to be in 2nd and 20 anyway, but now if you still can't kick the field goal in that situation, whether they become a good offense or not, it's still very hard to convert those situations.
I mean, I don't think that's because I mean, they're not gonna. How long are they gonna allow Elliott to look like this before they move on? I mean, nobody's.
I mean, he's not hurt. I don't know. You're gonna find somebody this late in the year if you got
who you're getting.
I mean, Washington found a guy.
But their guy got hurt, right? I mean, Bucker's hurt, so the Chiefs had to go get somebody. But I would rather.
I still kick 55-yard field goals like everybody else in the NFL does.
Well, except for Jake Elliott, he hasn't made one over 50 yards yet this year or whatever. But the Quinn decision, like we said, that baffled me. And, the momentum had been definitely on the Eagles' side from the start of the second quarter on. So you could argue, well, look, the Eagles have been rolling. They had scored on 4 straight possessions or whatever. We felt like we needed a touchdown, but you kick that field goal, you get the lead back. They just missed an extra point. I mean, maybe they can keep it going. Give yourselves the lead, and, it took the whole game for the Eagles to get the lead. Put yourself back up and see what you can do. Unless inside he knew that, look, our defense can't stop him anymore.
Yeah, but so what? You get the ball back.
I get it. I get it. I'm just trying to. I'm not agreeing with. I don't agree with the decision whatsoever. And then you call that play, which
and it's a whole different philosophy too for the Eagles when you're down.
Yeah.
Rather than now,
they're not going to run. They're not going to run.
Make them play from behind. Now the Eagles could run a 7-minute drive and kick a field goal at the end of the game, but make them try to do that.
But on the flip side, also Washington's now deflated.
Yeah,
because now
you completely swung the game. You exactly. Now they lost it, and then it was the Calcaterra play was a couple of plays later, I think, right?
Yeah.
So they see that they had a break, they don't get that, and then Barkley goes. It just kind of snowballed for them after that. Barkley goes 20 yards untouched again. Pick on the next play, 48 yards untouched. They just fell apart.
It's not a touchdown. You just pick the first down. You still got to go 25 yards for a touchdown. You still might get a field goal. You use a little more clock, but you still might get a field goal.
Kick the field goal and take the lead. I mean, there's to me
Washington. Dan Quinn is the coach who blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason for it. Everybody likes him because he has his hats backwards and he yells and stuff. Fine. He stings. He's not a good coach. He's a cheerleader.
I had the post game show on in the background, and I'm blanking on his name. The big ball guy that used to play for the Rams.
Whitworth. Yeah, the lineman. I know you're
Whitworth.
Oh, Whitmore.
He was saying after the game. He said, and again, it's only been a couple years, but if you look at, Kingsbury was getting a lot of credit for how Daniels was looking, and Daniels is hurt. He's got that rib protection. He's not 100%, but Kingsbury's second half record in parentheses it's awful. And I know Murray was hurt, or Murray got hurt for one, but so it's and we've talked about these things. You can come out and you get hot, but then teams start to pick up on stuff, and if you don't adjust, and it almost seems like from a coaching perspective, Kingsbury sort of fits into that because his second half record is atrocious. Especially when compared to it was a pretty decent first half record, in some years.
And it's not only in the NFL; it's way back when he was in Texas Tech too.
Yeah,
it's a known fact that Kingsbury gets figured out and doesn't adjust.
Yeah, so, I mean their strategy. They only threw the running backs all short pass. It was bad. They were bad.
Yeah. So just two quick things before I move on. Al Michaels has to retire. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he
he's
called that
he's
third.
not
He
good anymore.
called the fourth down play like
A
it was
third
third
down. He's like, well, they'll kick the 44 yards with that. And I'm like, what is he
Yeah,
watching? That they went
Yeah,
to break and he
I
couldn't
love
realize
Al
what was going
Michaels
on.
so much, and he's such a legend. I'm willing to deal with it because I just love Al
It's
Michaels.
I'm okay with it only because I think Thursday Night Football is a joke anyway. So
Yeah.
it like adds to the joke of what it is.
So
Like I don't watch the games like it's football. I watch it's just like
Yeah.
entertainment for that night.
to the other part of the joke of Thursday Night Football, which is a bigger problem in the league, but it's happened the last 2 Thursday nights. The officiating in the league is as awful as it's been, and they need to put some rule in where it's if you are getting blatant face masks and the referees are looking at it and not calling it, like that has to be a rule change because you have the announcers talking about it now, like every single
I
time.
mean, the problem is you have assistant replay for certain things. What it is, I don't know.
You got to
They
make it
just decide
reviewable.
to-
I mean, I don't know.
right.
I don't know if it was the last play of the game, but that in the Cincinnati game last week, there's a snapshot that they took on the paper. Burrow's getting a face mask, and 2 of the defensive linemen on Baltimore have a Bengals face mask, and they're grabbing it, and the ref is looking dead at them and didn't throw a flag.
And
then
they held the
thing,
receiver.
the Hurts thing
And they
last
held the
night and other
receiver.
stuff, like
What I think they should do is you can't do replay for every single play.
No.
What you could do is for roughing the passer and for face mask on the quarterback. I think you should be able to review it that way.
Those are not judgment calls. It's not a hold or even a pass interference.
But
to
I
some
would
extent.
I would just relegate it to the quarterback in the pocket, right? Because then this way, because now all those bogus roughing the passer penalties.
Yeah, I still think face mask even on a ball carrier though. Like if it's the guy, I would be okay. Because that assistant replay takes 2 seconds.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
if they do a play quick enough and you don't get it, you don't get it. You don't stop the game. But
and I can cut slack with the refs on some calls because like you might get a face mask as the guy is going to the ground and you just can't see it. But these are happening right in front of like the refs are looking at them.
They threw a flag
and picked it up, and someone came and said, "Oh no, it wasn't." It's like, yeah.
Well, what was the conversation? I want
like I mean, who was it? Mark, whoever was doing the ref commentary last night. Like they don't like to rip the guys, but when because these were the guys they used to work with, but when they're coming in and saying like, this is the wrong call. I mean, Gene Steratore said it how many times in the Jaguars game?
They probably thought he caught him by the back of the helmet or something, and not.
Well, he did, but that's a pet face mask.
Yeah, if you get your fingers underneath and yank it.
It's the ear hole. I think it's the ear hole.
He had the ear hole too. Yeah.
But
anyway.
No, that I agree. I think it's the worst. But we played games in Germany and we play games in Brazil, so the NFL's fine. So what do we care? We don't have to fix this 75-year-old lineman who can't even spot a football.
I wasn't even going to get to that, but yeah, that's the other thing is you can't have some technology to help you with that. But you're getting $1 billion from Google for.
They should be able to put a chip in the
Sunday
ball
ticket.
at this point and be able to know where the ball is when the whistle blows. Right.
They should be, or at the very least, what was it? It was the 2-point conversion against Jacksonville, the first one that they said he didn't get, which it looked like you can digitally superimpose a goal line if you can't see it, and then judge the player. There was no way Hurts wasn't in, and the camera angle they used wasn't even parallel to the goal line. The next 2-point try, they had a camera angle that was right on the goal line. Why can't you have that every single play? I don't understand. Like it's like they want to have stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it probably. I mean, that might be some of it. All right. Well, I mean, the Eagles are rolling. They're 8-2. They won. I don't know. What are they up to? 7 straight now? 6 straight? 6 straight?
6
straight. They got a pretty nice hammer lock on the division. Obviously, a lot could change in a couple weeks, but when they're like a 2.5 game lead, they kind of, solidified a playoff spot. They only got to win probably 2 or 3 more games, and they're in at least the playoffs. So, but we've talked about the issues, and I think the Eagles could continue to win games if Hurts kind of doesn't turn the ball over and can play sloppy, but if he has any turnovers, I think they're going to struggle.
Once you get into a better coordinator and defense that's athletic and that's able to kind of, I'll tell you, Washington in the first 3 quarters, they had a pretty good game plan against the Eagles, defensively.
Well, you got to figure teams are going to just force Hurts to throw and stop
throw. They're going to. That one Louvu made a great play on that one play where Did you
He
notice
had no idea.
he didn't like these guys that lose containment on these quarterbacks that like to run the
Yeah,
ball.
well, that's that simulated pressure. That's where you feel like
You
you don't
stop
really
and
rush
then
in.
you go
Yeah,
and get him when he starts to run. Like
because
that's
you only got to get within so many yards of Hurts before he's going to drop out. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
I mean, the Washington's
but
problem was that the offense couldn't score enough. So by the time the fourth quarter came, they weren't, they kept the Eagles out of the end zone, but it was only, 10 for Washington. And then the attrition, the Eagles line wore them down.
well, yeah, the second half, Eagles' offensive line have been dominating
I mean,
second half. I mean,
Jurgens looked like Kelsey 10 yards downfield blocking safeties, and
they've looked
Barkley's
kind of
not getting
shaky at
touched.
times.
Yeah.
They've looked shaky in first half of games, but they've completely dominated second half of the game.
Yeah.
All right, well, we promised a quicker show, so we'll deliver. We're gonna move right into picks, and for that, we turn it over to Jason.
Yeah, I'll do stats. So last week the overs was 4, unders was 10. So it was a big under week last week. The public went 7-7. So over unders at 73 over, 76 under for the year. The public against the spread is 74 and 76. So both kind of right there. What's not right there is the Broad Street Hustle podcast picks, which were horrendous once again. We went 4-8 on the week. We all went 1-2. We'll start with Chalky. Chalky lost his best bet with the Titans and Chargers under. Chalky won his 49ers and Bucks under, but he lost with the Cowboys plus 7.5. I went 1-2. I lost my best bet with the Colts, who are not a good team. I did win with the Broncos plus 7.5. They almost won outright. Probably should have won outright. And I lost with the 49ers because the kicker missed like 5 field goals or something like that during the game. But I lost. Tommy went 1-2 as well. He did hit his best bet with the Saints plus 3.5. They won outright. But he lost with the Titans. And he lost with the Commanders. And then Meeker went 1-2. He lost his best bet, that's really like fading Meeker's best bet is probably the most profitable bet you can make.
My third pick.
His best bet and your third pick. If anybody's doing that, they're probably mortgaged. Like
They'd be banned. They'd be banned from several
they
sports
paid
books.
off their house.
Yeah.
But he had the Bears as his best bet, which was Joe Public loss. He had the Jets, which the Jets are really, really bad. That was a loss. But then he won with the under and the Falcons and Saints. So for the year, Chalky is still 17-12. He's a profit of $370, 59% win, 13% ROI. I am under 500 now. I'm 14-15, loss of $236, 48% win, minus 8% ROI. Meeker is 13-16, loss of $431, 45% win, minus 15% ROI. And Tommy is 10-17, loss of $791, 37% win. I wrote your ROI down wrong, but it's pretty bad, Tom, for this year. Let me just go to best bets before we go to our overall record, because I'll point to Meeker. But I'm 25-18 lifetime, which is 58%. Tommy's 23-19 lifetime, 55%. Chalky's 24-21 lifetime, 53%. Meeker is 19-25, 43%. So that is a profitable play to play against Meeker's best bet. So overall, for the time on the podcast, I'm 77-57, profit of $1,273, 57% win, 10% ROI. Tommy 63-64, loss of $444, 49% win, negative 3% ROI. Chalky 66-69, loss of $829, also 49% win, negative 6% ROI. Meeker is 63-68, minus $1,117, 47% win, minus 9% ROI. The pod is 264 or 269 and 258. Minus, so listen to this. So the pod is minus $1,116 loss. Meeker is minus $1,117 loss. So without Meeker, we are profitable by $1. The three of us. But anyway, we're 51% in total and minus 2.1% ROI. So we
Yeah,
have
it's
to
been
start picking it up.
this year has definitely been a struggle when it comes to picking winners. But I did win my best bet, so I'll defer to myself as the person who gets to pick who goes first this week, and I'll pick. Oh, Meeker is not. I forgot Meeker's not on the show, so I would have picked Meeker, but I guess I'll
We
pick
have his
Chalk.
no, we have his picks. Jason can give
Yeah,
his
but it
picks.
wouldn't be the. You don't want the first person to like have. You want the first person to really be able to give it. Then you could read them
The
after
lead
that.
off.
So Chalky, you go
Yeah.
first.
All right. Well, I will make my first best bet, only best bet, but first pick Meager themed. In that I am taking Cleveland minus 108 against the Saints. I think that's the first time this year that I have taken a side as my best bet, so we'll see how that goes. My other two are going to be totals. Second pick is under in the Bengals Chargers game. Right now, that is sitting at under 48, minus 112. And then I am also going to go under in the Titans-Vikings game that is under 39.5, minus 108. I really wanted to go with Jacksonville at that number, but Peterson might get fired after this week, so we'll see.
What was the Titans? Minus 30, under 39.5?
Under 39.5, minus 108.
Chalky, you're going to be very, very disappointed to know you have one of Meeker's picks. And
It's not the
It
Saints.
is I believe
your
it's
record,
a double pick.
you guys are like 1-7 when you guys have the same pick. So
Yeah. Well,
With that,
if
with
it's my
said-
third pick, then that is the lock of the year if we're the same.
it's not your
with
pick.
that
Okay.
said, we have get the aforementioned Meeker's picks.
Meeker's
Give it.
picks. So Meeker's best bet, Chalky, his best bet, which we've documented is 43%, is the Bengals Chargers under 48 at minus 112.
I'm glad I moved that out of my best bet.
That was your best bet
At
as
one
well?
point,
Oh my
at one
God.
point, it was my best bet, and then I changed it.
Oh my God. So use that info as you will, listeners. Meeker's second pick is the 49ers minus 6.5, minus 110. His third pick is just Joe Public as they come. It's the Vikings minus 6, minus 108.
Okay. So I'll go. So there will be a lot of interest in this Bengals Chargers game, as Meeker and Chalky have the unders. I will have a side on that game, and I will have the Chargers minus 1.5, minus 110 as my best bet of the week. I see some shaking from other heads here in the dais.
Similar, but I'm not. We'll get to mine. I'll let you finish.
And my second pick is a little scary, but I feel good about it because the Buffalo Bills are minus 2-point favorite against the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. All the money is on the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. You can't beat the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. However, they're an underdog in this game, which is kind of strange. So it's Buffalo minus 2. My third pick
What is the juice?
minus 112.
Okay.
And then my third pick, who I forgot now who they play because I forgot to write that down, but it was actually the exact same logic here, is why is the Denver Broncos a minus 2-point favorite against the Atlanta Falcons when all the money's on the Atlanta Falcons as an underdog and everybody thinks the Falcons are this world beater. And Denver's still this team that can't win games, even though they almost beat the Chiefs. So Denver minus 2, minus 112 as well.
Got
And
it.
Jason?
So my best bet like yours, is the Chargers. However, I'm doing money line. I'm not messing around with the points because I'm just not. I'll do minus 122. It's bad juice, but um, I'm just going to do money line there. Um, I think the Bengals are a fraud. I think their defense stinks. Um, I kind of unfortunately chalky, and this is even before I heard that Meeker had them, and then you both had them. I really like the over in that game. I just don't bet overs. Um, I think the Bengals couldn't stop me, you, and Tommy, and I don't think the Chargers' offense is as bad as people think, and the Bengals score. Anyway, uh, my second pick is going to be the Browns, so I am on the same pick as Chalky. However, I am also doing money line in that game.
Yeah, I thought about it. Yeah.
I'm not messing with points. I'm going to do
Well,
money.
that money line's probably not. What's the juice
It's
on that?
minus 115. It's not
Yeah,
bad.
because it's a one
Yeah,
game. It's a
yeah,
1 point game, not a one
yeah.
and a half.
I'm not messing with points. I'm doing money line in the Chargers and the Browns game. I also really like the Browns. I almost made them my best bet. I was very close to making them my best bet because I think the Saints are. They had that one game, which they probably even shouldn't have won. To be honest with you, the Falcons probably should have won that game. Um, and the Browns are coming off the bye. And then I'm going to go with an awful team as my third pick. I'm going to take the points. The Titans +6, minus 112. I think the Vikings are a fraud. I mean, I think the Titans stink, but I don't know. To me, this is a game where the sharps are going to be on the Titans and all the Meekers. Meeker. Speaking of Meeker, Meeker has the Vikings. The Meekers are going to be on a team like the Vikings in this game. So give me the Titans +6, minus 112.
Yeah, I mean the one good thing with the podcast is you don't have to watch many games
Yeah, it's
because
true.
I think Cleveland, the Bengals, the Vikings, we all have, and then there's the Denver and the Diners. So you got about 5 games that you got to watch, and you'll touch everybody's picks. Um,
Yeah,
so maybe this is the week we turn around. Maybe this is the week we turn it around. Uh, okay. I think that will wrap it up. If anybody has anything else to add before we sign off these airwaves,
probably
Jason.
finally do our draft next week, right?
Yeah, so we did have the draft scheduled for this week. Meeker had some obligations he couldn't get out of, so we're not going to do it without him. So yeah, we'll have to do it. As we keep getting deeper into the season, we're going to, you're really getting to see who these teams are. So some of it might have to do with where you draft. I mean, that's going to make a big. The actual order is going to be big. So that will be next week. More football. At some point, I guess we'll Phillies baseball get kind of brought back. We'll do a little off season kind of
Yeah,
show.
we could throw in like a hot stove league conversation one of these weeks.
Yeah, that's probably coming up. So stay tuned. But this was episode 133 of Broad Street Hustle. Have a great night.